Refreshing and stimulating talk. Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
25 past 11 on the Power Perspective on this Tuesday night. Thank you so much for staying with us. And now you know what we always do about this time on a Tuesday when we bring you our feature about, our feature in the disability feature that we bring you every Tuesday, talking to people with disabilities and talk about their lives, talk about the things that they are doing and achieving in spite of their disability, or as sometimes they are referred to, differently abled. And I actually like the sound of that one. So now, our guest tonight is an artist, a performing artist. And recently, some artists across and creatives across Gauteng, have come out to criticize the leadership of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. In other words, the Minister, Gayton Mackenzie, saying that, for all his talk, he's not really doing justice to the arts, particularly when it comes to true inclusivity, even though the claims are often made about inclusivity. Now, my guest, Leletu Mahambehlala, is a performance poet who also lives with a disability and says that the department does not cater for differently abled individuals like her. Leletu is a blind poet who also manages the organization for which she performs. She was among the scores of creatives who converged on the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture at the offices in Tshwane about 3 weeks ago to make themselves heard. Let's talk to Leletu, also known as, or AKA, Poetic Soul Mahambehlala. Good evening, Leletu.
Hello, Titi. How are you?
I'm very well, and yourself?
I'm great.
Or should I call you
hour?
Poet? I know you're doing very well. Thank you so much for staying up so late for our benefit.
Yeah.
Do you prefer? Do people call you Poetic Soul, or just Leletu? You only call Poetic Soul when you're on stage.
My dad used to call me Leletu. Everybody else calls me Poetic Soul.
You're kidding. Only your dad.
I think.
Okay.
I'm trying to say those who know me intimately call me Leletu.
Aha.
Those who know me from stage and know me through my poetry call me Poetic Soul.
Okay, that's really cool. Describe, before we delve into the issues that you've raised, with the Department of Arts and Culture and your frustrations with them, just describe your poetry to me, if you can. I mean, how do you describe the kind of poetry that you make or that you write, that you perform?
I guess it's my truth. It's how I view the world, how I've always viewed the world. It is, what should I say? Some would say it's feminist, which I disagree with, but
some would say that you
feminist. It's feminist in its nature.
Okay.
But I absolutely disagree with that. I just think it's my poetry is a story, is a story that all can relate to, and yeah, that's basically what I would say about it. I mean, I don't know how to say it's protest poetry.
Yeah. No. I'm interested in how you describe it, not how anybody else describes
for me, how I describe it is just my truth. I started writing as a way to vent my frustration. And over time, I fell in love with the art of writing, that it no longer was just about what I don't like, but also just what surrounds me, what I'm falling in love with, what I'm enjoying at a particular time. So it's just life. It's poetry about the many layers of life where you can find joy in the same space that you find pain.
And where did the love for the poetry come from? Every time I come across a poet, I'm like just thinking, I always think to myself, oh, lucky you, at least somebody got it, because I honestly, in school, poetry was just something that I didn't get. And I don't think it was for lack of effort on the part of my teachers, but I just never developed a love for it. Or no, forget a love, because love is something that you can only get once you have an appreciation for it. But for me, this poetry thing, it was just, maybe it was a type of poetry as well. I think that had a lot to do with it. It never felt like it was speaking to me, like you were saying, it's your truth, you know.
Yeah.
So where did your love for poetry come from?
I think it's poetry showed up to me or pointed me out, because in primary school I used to be chosen to recite a lot. When they've got, I think back then we used to have this thing called the readathon, which was a reading marathon. And all the time, without fail, I would be chosen to narrate a story or to recite a poem, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. And even in high school, when we had a Poetry Matters English project, I used to assist a lot of my friends in the writing of those poems. So I just think I had a love for words and how, words would paint pictures. And funny enough, at that time I could still see. And,
okay,
I
all
could
right.
still see at that time.
Okay.
And so now when later in life I lose my sight, it is amazing that I have this descriptive way of speaking and of viewing the world, that I totally get that you can actually paint full pictures with words.
You know, I would imagine that the experience of someone who has never had sight before, who was born blind, and somebody who lost their sight in time, that would be a completely different experience.
Totally different, yeah.
And I do wonder how it finds its expression in your poetry. Is there, in terms of the kind of stuff that you write your poetry about, is it something that harks back to, that relies a lot on your memory of what it was like, to see, or how does, I'm just wondering what impact it has on your creativity.
I think for me, I always enjoy it as the best of both worlds. I'm able to write from the perspective of not being able to see and just imagining the newness of life and how I'm experiencing life now. But I'm also able to remember what things looked like and be able to describe from that perspective. And because I have seen things, I understand how those things feel, and I'm able to do a fair job at describing feelings alongside vision. So yeah, I think it's just the best of both worlds. That's how I view it, that I'm able to write from both perspectives.
You so how long, when did you, or how did you lose your sight, if you don't mind me asking?
So I lost my sight in 2013. I don't really know how I lost it.
Are you for real?
I don't really know. I was.
Oh, come on, Leletu. You make that sound like you woke up one day and you couldn't see.
That's his life. What had happened was, at the time that I lost my sight, I was experiencing some headaches.
Okay.
And I just went to a camp with some artists from the UK. Went to a village in Pedi, in Hamburg. And upon my return, went to see a doctor and just told him about the headaches, that it does have the effect of blurring a bit. And I think it was about a week later, my sight was gone.
No way.
And
so this was not a gradual thing that happens, with some people who said, no, I started off where, it was just blurry, and then gradually I lost it. But for you, it sounds as if it was almost literally overnight.
It was almost overnight, because even that blurriness that came with the headaches was not something that made me panic. It was just, I've got a headache, I feel a bit dizzy, I need to rest, or I can't see properly right now, so let me just rest. I thought that when I went to see specialists and I'd be told about diabetes and this, but nothing like that. All I was told was my cerebral tonsils are hanging low, and that could have been the cause.
Wow.
And that I think they called it the pressure in my brain went up really high, and that's what caused the swelling in my brain. And
is this
of those kinds of explanations?
Is it a rare condition?
Well, I don't want to lie to you, Titi.
Yeah.
I didn't stick around long enough to find out more about the condition, especially after a neurosurgeon said to me, I'm not going to operate on you. You are too full of life for me to try and experiment with you and not be certain if I'm really going to be able to bring your sight back. So since that day, I've just been enjoying my life, YOLO, and just doing my best to make sure that when my time comes, there's something worthy to say about me.
So you were given, you had to have the conversation with your specialist, and he made the decision that no, he's not going to do this.
No, he said he's not comfortable with that.
Yes. And how did that make you feel? I mean, were you desperate to, like, obviously I would imagine that it was a bit of a shock to the system, but I'm surprised that you didn't even encourage the doctor to go and say, let's just do it anyway, that you were harking, that you really wanted to have your sight back. It doesn't sound like that was a big thing for you.
I think
the way you said, sorry to interrupt you, but the way you said, I didn't hang around to find out more about the condition. Sounds like you really accepted it and you moved on very quickly.
I have always, I've been a person who accepts what happens as what was meant to happen. Also, on the other end of it, there was also this whole journey of Twasa that they were saying, no, it's because you're meant to go in Twasa. So I think that also distracted me from investigating further, because I had that thing of, maybe it's this Twasa thing. Let's try it out and see what happens. But also that really came to no real result because here we are.
Oh, you did do the Twasa thing?
No, I'm a dropout. I'm
You are the first I have ever met. Okay, I'm interested. Now you've got me interested. How do you drop out of Twasa school?
No, listen. As a poet, I'd always been told that there's something about you. You're a healer, and then
you've got a gift.
You've got a gift. You've tried to get something.
Oh dear.
So when I was told about Twasa,
Hey, Lelet, what have you done now? Your line's gone all wobbly now.
Hear me now?
Yes, that's fine. That's better.
Okay,
Oh, no, you'll never believe what my producer just says. He says, now that the line is going wonky, he says, Ngamadlozi. Now you see what you've done.
I know. So for me, when I was told about it, it didn't come as a shock that I'm supposed to go in Twasa. But at the same time, because of how I grew up, and my maternal grandmother, would tell us stories about so-and-so who went and found themselves in front of the house with the pink door, and they kind of just knew the direction to that place, and when they got there, they were welcomed as though they were expected. I always believed that the journey of becoming a healer is supposed to be that magical and mystical, and so a part of me going in felt like, why ingati I'm coming to Ning Smangmang High School and I want to study here, or Smangmang University and I want to study this course. It doesn't feel magical from the onset, but I submitted to it because there was the belief that it might bring my sight back, right? And because also I'm raised by a very faithful mother in terms of the Christian belief, the element of what God wants you to tell a story. She kept saying that to me, like don't fear nothing, just walk your journey because you're gonna have a story to tell at the end of the day. I I sort of immersed myself in all the experiences such that I would just accept if this door closes, like the neurosurgeon is saying, you know what, I don't know. I don't have evidence that shows that your sight could come back. And I don't want to mess with your life because I'm going to operate on you. And then every winter, you're going to be like a 70-year-old grandmother. Go, oh, Gabanda, I feel it.
Operation yam.
Yes,
Your operation yam.
Yeah, sister, I don't want to rob you of your life like that. I didn't push further because I thought, okay, this is a door that's closing. And already there were so many conversations around me. My father saying, if they want you to operate, please do not do it because this is your head. You know, we if your quality of life is fine, we are okay with it. My partner at the time also saying the same thing. So for me, when the neurosurgeon says no, it feels like, okay, maybe universe is saying don't do it and submit yourself to this other experience. But as I said, that did not last. Yes, I have my dreams but there were just, there were things that were just not congruent. And I was like, no, this is not my portion. And hence I say I'm a TOSA dropout.
And what did they say when you left?
They knew that they lied.
Oh.
They knew that they lied. So I just said, all I presented was, this is what I dreamt, and this is what's happening. This is what this other one is saying, and this is what you're doing.
Right.
Something is not coming. Something is not adding up, and they just said, you know what? Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone, because now I'm trying to investigate further as to why are we doing things differently to what my dreams are presenting.
Right. My guest this evening is Poetic Soul, born Leletu Mbehlala. We're chatting about, we're talking about all sorts of things, really. Talking about dropping out of TOSA school. She's literally the first dropout that I have met. But very interesting indeed. So I think of poets, as in the same way. I imagine creatively you operate in a similar way to songwriters, people who write songs. Would that be accurate? I mean, how does your creative process work?
My process, I think in the beginning it used to be what bites me, and I would sit with it. But much later, as I get commissioned to write particular pieces, there's a lot of research that goes into it, trying to understand that particular topic and learning basically what it is they want me to present in a poetic fashion. You'll never believe I've even written a poem about gender preferential procurement.
Wow.
I had to research that topic and write about it and try to make it sound as poetic as possible. So right now, it's a lot of research that goes into it. Independent of commissions, it's just pure inspiration, pure inspiration. I could be listening to a song and a line catches me and it sticks with me for about a week, and I'm just toying around. It's like what could this mean in 5 different ways? And I would explore it, and then I'd find myself just writing, and I'll write my piece for the first time and then let it sit, come back, read it again, and edit, and then end. So that's just basically the process. Yeah,
I'm actually. This is very interesting. You're full of surprises, Lele. I didn't even know that there was such thing as commissioned poetry. That you can go and write poetry about. In fact, now that you've mentioned it, how about sampling that poem about procurement? What was it?
Word! I don't even remember. Gender preferential procurement.
Gender preferential. That is not the title. That is not a title of a poem that I would have come up with. Gender
preferential procurement.
I'm curious.
Basically, giving preference to.
Yes.
I just remember. I won't say the exact line because I don't quite remember that piece. It was some time ago, but I remember talking about the women as soil, where you plant a seed and more grows out of it, and because more grows out of it, it falls back to the soil. So when you give something to a woman, like you give a tender to a woman in terms of these tenderpreneurs, then what happens is you feed nations out of that instead of giving it to a man.
Are you performing now, or are you telling me?
I'm telling you. So basically, I try to use the idea of fertility that lies within women and how that multiplies itself over time.
So something like that, a work like that, a piece like that, that you would have written, that you would have been commissioned to write. What happens to it afterwards? I mean, it sounds to me like something that you had to write, that you were commissioned to write, is not something that you're going to be performing. I don't imagine.
Yes.
Does it make it into your repertoire when you are performing your stuff?
If I really like it. If I really like it, it will make it into my repertoire. But if it's just beautiful words, but I can't for the life of me cram it and recite it independent of the paper, then I allow it to remain with the commissioner.
Okay. So then, how you mentioned earlier that some people said or describe your poetry as like feminist. Do you consider yourself a feminist?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. I consider myself a woman, and that's that. Yeah.
Right. Getting back to the creative process, when you sit down to write, if it just turns out to be 5 lines, does it still qualify as a poem? Or with you, when is it done?
If it's 5 lines, then it's 5 lines. I can't make it more than what it's not. You know what I mean? So I don't limit myself. I sometimes would write a piece that I could perform for about 5 minutes, but also I'd write a piece that I can perform in a minute. As long as the fullness of the picture is there and the story I'm trying to tell is coming through. Yeah.
So when you put something together, you've written a piece. Do you have a go-to person that you try the material out on, or do you even have to seek anyone's approval, or they get what you give?
I used to have a number of people that I would recite it to, not so that I can fix it, but so that they can say, "Hey, you're really good."
For your ego.
For my ego, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, lately, because a lot of my performances are more, private corporate events, I don't always have the pleasure of time to write and then, have somebody stroke my ego a bit. So I write, because now my process of writing has changed. I used to be able to write on toilet paper if I'm in a taxi, and just, whip out my pen and write. But now I write on my phone. I write only when I'm sitting in front of the laptop. And then when I finish writing, I read back what I've written to my phone via voice note, so that I can be able to rehash it and recite it independent of, reading it. So it's a longer process, and therefore it's more, I spend more time with myself and with the piece rather than, making sure that, and the crowd goes, wow. I don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and how often do you write? How long often what did you say? Do you get bitten? I think is the word how you describe it. How often does that bite come along?
Oh, I used to write a lot before I started my organization. Before being an activist took over as well, and doing projects took over. I used to write probably every week. I would have a piece that I've written. Not that all those pieces would make it to my repertoire, but I used to always just make it a practice that I must write. Even if I'm not writing a poem, I'm just writing a journal entry. It's just an exercise to relieve myself emotions. that because I don't want to walk around. I'm already, a curvaceous girl. I don't want to carry extra weight in terms of emotions. So I always try to pour out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, let's talk now that you've touched on your activism. That's where I started, actually, when we started this conversation. In my introduction, I made reference to some of the issues that you have raised with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture around their support for the not just for the arts, but specifically for disabled performers. When maybe I want you to outline what those issues are, because I'm listening to you now, Leletu, and I think you're a poet, and I wouldn't see the difference between what you do and when you're performing, and I'm listening to your work, and how would it be different from somebody who is sighted that is also a poet? Just describe to us what the issues are when you talk about the department failing you. Yeah.
I think one is just a problem with the world as it has been created, is that people think as they are. So whatever you can do, if you can read up to grade 12 level, you assume that your immediate company can also read up to grade 12 level. And sometimes it's not necessarily true. So sometimes it's not an intentional leaving out of people. It's just that automatically we think as we are. And I think that's one of the issues, in the sense that if we have to now apply for funding, the system for applying for that funding will not be accessible to myself if it's not an online, because now technology favors me a lot in terms of disabilities, right? I'm able to do a lot of things through technology. There's talking computers, talking phones, talking scales. Everything just has a voice nowadays. So I'm better off. But the moment you shut down that online world, you've literally left all of me out, and therefore I can't access it. Also, the way that the languaging is put out there to say, if you have a project that caters for people with disabilities, the adjudication will be more favorable to you. But they're not yet speaking to persons with disabilities leading in their lives, taking leadership and control of their lives, such that you want to encourage those artists with disabilities and practitioners with disabilities who are leading, who have those companies, who run those companies, to actually do the application. Once you're able to do that, of course, you'll be able to change the system. But beyond the funding that is difficult to access, a lot of our theaters are created mostly to give access to an audience with disabilities, but not to an artist with disabilities. Going backstage is got stairs, but you can get to the seats with much more ease than you can get to backstage or to the actual stage, because there's stairs, they don't yet have ramps, the spaces are too narrow, there are no rails. It's still a journey that we have to walk and make people realize that we come from both sides. There are performers and there's an audience, and so you need to cater to both. So I think for me right now, I'm still trying to observe a lot of spaces in terms of, as a performer, how much do I have to squeeze myself in to force myself into the situation? Because I know that if I were to bring a person with a wheelchair, they won't be able to access that stage unless you lift them up. And you don't necessarily want to do that. I grew up with Sitiwa. People with disabilities are very mean and bitter and an angst. And
sweeping generalizations,
Yes. When I then lost my sight, I was very conscious of that voice that kept saying, "Oh, they're very bitter." Da, da, da. But over time, I learned that it's because people step in where they are not invited. So if a person is pushing their wheelchair into the bank, you immediately want to push, not knowing that this is personal space that you're invading, and you don't know this person. So, it just invades their space, their privacy. And that's the thing, is that we're not asking for help all the time. What we're asking for is to be able and be enabled to do for ourselves until we can say, I can't do this. You know, like when I'm cooking a meal, when I'm deciding that I'm going to make lasagna today, I want to be in the kitchen and do it all the way until I realize that, okay, this part, the layering, I might need somebody with eyes who's just going to stand there and watch me layer. And then I put it in the oven and it's all systems go. So the department is not yet at that point of enabling. You see it in the fact that there isn't even an accessibility office. People who are just looking out for accessibility issues.
Do you believe that you are denied opportunities purely because of your disability, where Poetic Soul? Sounds so weird calling you that.
You can call me Lilith. Now that you know some intimate details.
Now that I know you like that. Yeah.
So I want to believe that if I did not have the kind of support that I have, there's a lot of opportunities I would never have been able to access.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say because of my disability, there are opportunities that I'm not able to access. I'll make a small example. My ID, at the face of the ID, it says they're unable to sign. It's written there, I'm unable to sign. Yeah. Yet every application form that I have to fill in requires me to put a signature. And if I were to submit that application form
without a signature,
I'm not. Though ID at the face of the
Oops. The line is going again.
Okay. Am I here?
Yeah, you're there now.
Okay.
You're back.
I just get excited and I start moving around.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot to teach each other. I mean, even that, you know, the fact that my ID says I'm unable to sign is a total lie.
Of course.
Right? Because I have had my sight for a good 30 years. So I have a signature that I am able to write. But because the person was assisting me at Home Affairs saw that I needed somebody to put my hand at the right place in order to sign, they decided that I'm
She can't write. Yeah.
You see that? But also remember now, there's a host of people who were born blind who are unable to sign.
Of course, yeah.
How does the system treat those people?
Yeah.
Who then need somebody else to put their signature on application forms to receive funding.
Do you still write a lot with your hand? I mean, and now there is the technology that allows, for example, if you're writing on an iPad, you can, scribble on an iPad. Yeah. Do you utilize that? Or are you more Braille now?
No, I don't read Braille. I only know A to Z.
Hi, Wena. You can't sign and you can't read Braille.
10. And I'm illiterate. My God.
Oh gosh. So you're navigating the world as a blind person without Braille?
I navigate the world as a blind person who still remembers how to see.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, when I lost my sight, it was 2013. Everything could talk.
Was it? I was about to actually ask you that. How was the tech at the time? And did we had that? I can't remember. 2013.
It was not as advanced as what it is today.
But it was there nonetheless. Yeah.
But it was there already, and it was just a matter of learning, how to do things differently. But in reality, there was no need for Braille. I actually got my affirmation when I listened to this lady who is a Kenyan parliamentarian.
Yeah.
She's blind and she's a singer. And they didn't give her the notes on time for a parliamentary session. Yeah. And they said, no, we still have to make them Braille. She says, I don't read Braille. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. I'm not the only one who is illiterate.
Yeah. Okay.
because honestly, there's no real need for it. I mean, in terms of labeling things, I am able to do the basics with the A to Z. I'm able to, code my own things my own way, but it's not the standard. Yeah.
By the way, so you've been at it for more than 20 years. You've been in this game,
Yeah.
I've just from a department point of view, and this protest that you guys took up a few weeks ago. Are things getting better? Have things gotten better in the last 20 years, or how would you describe where we are now? And oh my goodness, look at the time. If you can answer that for me in 30 seconds.
Sure. Currently, where we are after the march, I'm not even going to try to take it back to 20 years. It's not getting better.
Oh gosh,
it's not getting better at all. I was actually venting about that today. That we are in the 6th month of the year, and there's no funding that has come through for the artists of South Africa. No project is able to happen, and even the call that is opening that closes on the 11th of July, we're most likely to see that money if it doesn't get delayed in September, October. That's we are basically on lockdown.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Lelecho, it's been awesome meeting you. It's been great chatting to you. I wished I had more time because I wanted to. Can you close with a haiku for us?
I don't know what a haiku is. I'm a self-taught poet. Come on now.
A haiku is a poem containing 3 or up to 5 lines, I think.
Okay.
It's a Japanese form of.
It's a Japanese
yes.
haiku. Can you just ask me to recite a poem?
Then I sound like a simpleton.
Yeah.
Go on.
She came to me in my sleep, whispering words in a language I had never heard spoken. But I saw her, I felt her, my heart heard her. It was time to heed the call, to feed the need and follow her lead. In my dream, I had no fears. I banished all cares, and I flourished in all the stairs. Poetry carried me to a world that once existed in a parallel lifetime. She invited me to share in her pleasures and be the fruit of the seed once planted by many who had no courage to water the plant. Hypnotized by her flow, I immersed my soul into her waters. The deeper I fell into her words, the deeper I fell in love. I was hers to have. I surrendered, but she gave herself to me, this poetry. She promised me eternal life, saying these words would never perish, my thoughts would never expire, and my dreams would certainly be realized. Poetry carried me home in verse, wiped away my tears in rhyme, personified herself through me. I came to live for her, came to life through her. Poetry birthed me, garbed me in fine cloth, then pronounced my soul poetic. She gave me her world as my stage. Now she's giving me your heart as my home. Soon you will wonder and ponder over me, guessing right or wrong over what exactly inspires her. Or poetry has just taken her place in your life, claimed her little space in your heart. And now your prayers, much like mine, will melodiously sing. Poetry use me, poetry move me, poetry change me, twist and turn me, poetry touch me, poetry teach me, poetry heal me.
Oh, wow.
Don't haiku me.
Oh, wow. Don't haiku me.
Don't haiku me.
Okay. Now, he played the applause there. I was going to do the pretentious thing and do.
Yeah. The sound of one hand clapping.
Is that phony, though? Is that just what it's done? I feel like such a phony when I do that.
Don't feel like a phony. There's so many phony things in this life.
Thank you.
Just do it, because I guess sometimes the words get drowned by the hand claps that come in the middle of the recital. So the sound of one hand clapping kind of urges you to carry on without disturbing you, and people are just noting that that line.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was beautiful. I liked that a lot, Poetic Soul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for chatting and staying up so late. I release you now. Thank you.
And us with pleasure. Thank you, Titi.
Thank you so much. Poetic Soul, Mohambi Hlala.